Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Bottom Line. I'm your host, Lauren Kalil. Our show is brought to you by Whoop. Check out the description below to join our team to get a free strap and an extra month's membership with our link. On today's show, we have Dex Hopkins and Chase Ingraham here to discuss if they think Roman Khrennikov will make the top 10 at the CrossFit Games. Guys, he's officially back in the US. He's never been able to acquire a visa to compete at the CrossFit Games. I mean, that in itself is so exciting. He'll finally be in Madison. But let's just take a quick look at some of the matchups that he has had against Games athletes over the past couple of years. I mean, you see, he is absolutely stacked. Chase, do any of these performances tell us anything about Roman that we can predict what we're going to see in Madison?
I believe so in a way because, I mean, look, yeah, you see all these first place finishes, third and second. What we don't see is we see the field he was competing against, and we see him beating podium athletes, second and third, the Pat Vellners, the Brent Fikowskis, the Adlers, the BKGs. He has been in the mix with all of these athletes, and he has held his own and stood his ground on the competition setting. And I think with his place finishing at a lot of these events, you got to look back at who was in the mix there. And it is the who's who of the top 10 at the CrossFit Games over the last 5 years. And that includes a lot of podium athletes as well. So I think Roman is definitely poised to put himself in a place finishing at the CrossFit Games inside the top 10. If, and this goes, and I'll throw this to Dex, is managing the expectations of the community, manage the expectations of
Oh.
himself, and managing the pressure of finally walking out on the competition floor in Madison, Wisconsin.
So what exactly do you mean by that? Do you think that he's going to have like this different mindset going into the game since he's never been there before versus some of these other competitions like Dubai?
The games, like when you drive, I competed in the Carson, California days. So when you would drive
Mhm.
up into the palm tree boardwalk to the StubHub Center or the Home Depot Center, it completely takes you by surprise if you're not prepared for it about what that feels like. Roman Khrennikov has been looking at the Coliseum decked out with athletes for 4 straight years. He's been seeing it on documentaries, if he even watches those things. When you see something like that in person, you can have all your ducks in a row until you see it, and then you start to react to how those emotions feel. And this is what I'm curious if, like, if Dex feels the same way. Is like there's a big difference in seeing something on TV versus seeing something in person, and the weight and pressure of things like expectations, and more so as being able to handle excitement, because that can throw an athlete off their game as well. And so how he manages that when he drives onto the grounds in Madison, Wisconsin, I think is going to be a big thing for him to be prepared for rolling up to the CrossFit Games.
Dex,
Yeah,
you can
they
obviously speak to that. What do you think?
yeah, so I got to do both. He is not lying. The driveway up to the StubHub Center was nuts. And then if you got to step foot in the tennis stadium, like you don't realize how on top everybody, like on top of you everyone was. And it's packed, right? Standing room only, and even the standing room's packed. And then the Coliseum, I feel like pretty much the same. It's a little louder because it's closed, right? But I mean, it's a different show. Like the Woodstock was a StubHub to me. It's a Journey concert in the Coliseum. It's
Mm.
lights, action, crazy times. And so, you know, I also like the other side of that is like you've had to watch other people do things that you have earned the right to do, right? I got to see it. We were talking about, I got to see it firsthand at the Filthy 150 in 19. Guy's a killer. Medeiros got him at that one. But I mean, he was loose, right? And now, granted, it's not as grandiose as going to, the grounds in Madison, right? And, even as recent as Far East now, all those workouts were short-ish, solid field. But I mean, the longest event they did was 13 minutes.
Mm.
But I mean, that list of events like Dubai notoriously tries to be the games, but not the games, right? And I'd say even like over the top. Some of those events were
Yeah.
nuts,
Yes.
especially the years before it got a lot of like they had an underwater kettlebell push or something like that one year. So that was the first year I'd heard about it. It was before it became like the off-season games, and so I can see like the hungry dog mentality of him coming in like finally to the show. These things feel a little lighter. I know I've had these skills in the bag. What'll be interesting to me is it's not necessarily like maybe the weight of the moment. Because I mean, I think he knows the tools he's got in the bag. He looks really strong. I mean, he hit 330 on the complex, that's high end for every semi. Just trying to find one we can go on that everybody did, and we know he can go long. Dubai's long, and so I want to see if it's 4 years is a long time in CrossFit years, right? Like, I mean, we talk about people getting banned and stuff. You're almost done. And there's only one person we've seen come back and make a run, and he's actively doing it. So I want to see if it's been, not if the window, I don't think the window's passed because he stayed at such a high level for such a long time, but seeing the scenery change. And if, he's been in the US and thank God he got back. I was tripping about that. I was like, dude, just do the LCQ. Don't go anywhere. I work for Brute, right? Like Nick Fowler is his coach. And so it is a sweat and bullets scenario, which worked out finally. So I don't know if it's going to be this is a heavy situation, or if it's finally like, we finally had to stare at this ice cream sundae for a long time from a distance, and now I get to stick my face in it. And he goes nuts. I mean, I can see that. I mean, and the situation with like him being here, there's so many things attached to it, like his, had a kid recently and stuff like that. So, I mean, there's a lot to be here. So, I mean, it can add to either side. So I can see both. I'd like to see it. I'd like to see it be the kind of hungry dog finally getting to eat thing. Cause I think he's had the skills for years. We've seen that, like Chase said, the fields he's been in have not been like local competitions. Like he's been crushing the guys that go to the show and crush guys at the show. So I'm excited to see it like finally, and then being associated and getting to kind of see his training blocks and stuff that go into it. Cause Nick's a super intelligent guy, and has kept the guy healthy and all that for years. And the only thing is not being able to get over here. So I'm super pumped to see that.
So how do you think that him not ever competing at the CrossFit Games plays a factor into his performance this year? I mean, we know that veterans and people who kind of know what to expect once they're at the games tend to perform better. Obviously, he's competed and done well at these other big name events against these athletes, but will this work against him by never actually being at the games before?
I don't know if it's the games and Dubai are the only kind of parallels I can draw event wise, and Chase might agree or disagree with that, but I think the ability, the thing you see people wrap their brain around going through when you get to that level, or that they have not wrapped their brain around, is the recovery aspect of it. Like, the best way I've heard it put is Ben Bergeron said last year, I heard him say it to Chandler, was you only got so many matches to strike in the match book that weekend, right? So is it my first time? Am I going to do all the interviews? Am I doing, all the extra stuff instead of doing my recovery? Like you see Pat and even Matt before he stopped, right to the ice bath, right to all these kind of unwind, take care of yourself things. So I'll be interested to see if that's a groove he's already in just naturally at events, or if that's, it's a curve, man. But the only difference is now it's like we don't know if you're going to have a learning curve, if it's like a one stop and you're done. So, with him, it's unique.
They can just say no English and then just move on to the
hard pass. Pass.
No, sorry.
That's his out every time.
Well, you got to think they're going to be all over him, right? Like nobody's had access to him really.
Yeah.
I mean, period. So, it's going to be a thing. Like, can you say no? And also like, I think he's a guy that fitness is for a living. So, I mean, do you got to stoke that fire to make money, right? Like those people are far few and in between. So, it'll be interesting to see if he balances, or if he has someone balance, right? Like Nick's a guy that doesn't mind being on camera, really well spoken, and he could be like the liaison type thing to kind of get him out of that. But you're right, boy, it's gonna be a lot of no English. Let me see you later if he's trying to balance it the right way. I think
that's the thing, is like we're not questioning really anything about his fitness right now. We're not questioning his ability to handle a long weekend like the CrossFit Games, because he's proven that in Dubai. Like Dubai is probably your best example of what he can handle for a multiple day weekend in a lot of events. And like you said, like they've had crazy tests, super heavy, over programmed things, and he fared well, and he went and won in this past one they had. But it's all those externals that he's probably never really had to deal with. Like even at like the Filthy 150, like he didn't really get an interview until they asked him to like break dance at the end of the competition. And
Tommy got it.
Yeah, and who knows what he had to do at like the Far East Throwdown, even though he was leading. So I don't think he's really ever had the camera put in his face too much. He had it in Dubai when he would do well, but he also had his wife there to basically translate for him. So there was some familiarity, some buffer between him and the media and the fans. And I think the biggest thing he's going to have to manage has nothing to do with the competition itself, and more, like Dex said, everything outside of that.
So we're not really even looking at the data from past competitions or even the Far East Throwdown. We know that he's potentially fit enough to break the top 10, but all of these other factors are going to be the determining factor.
I'm 100% able to sit here with a straight face and say Roman Khrennikov is the top 10 fitness talent.
Yeah.
What about top 5?
That's a better question, right? And that's a
Well,
tough one.
that's a detailed question, right? Like, because to me, it's always like the wash events, right? Like some of them are a wash for top 10-ish, like, oh, the swim, you know, except for like maybe Tia or like Matt coming out in the year and, you know, top 3 in a swim. But he can Dubai, the year they had the insane run swim kettlebell thing, crush that. And that was, you know, I dare say rougher water, like you're getting murdered by waves and stuff.
Oh, it's much rougher.
Yeah, right.
That was real. That was real.
Dude, yeah. And I swam in Carson and it was not that bad. Like, I was terrified. But skills wise, like, I mean, literally every box is checked. Like, strong guy, done the long game thing. I mean, I'd love to throw the Far East data out there, and there, no long events, but that's cool. Like, that's going to come with the semi format, right? Like, no regulated events. But I don't think if you drop him in the Torian and they start with that long event, I don't think he suffers there either. I still think he does the same thing and mixes that leaderboard up from the top. So I don't think it's a question of top 5 thing will be how he manages the washables. Can he come smash a swim? They just signed you guys posted the licenses they got for the route through downtown. Like, so could it possibly be running back was it 2013, the triathlon chase with when they did the
2012
or 13?
2012.
Chad McKay won it. I remember that because he's my size. I was so pumped. But if they run something like that, I mean, like, I think he's got just outwardly and just speaking in the lens of seeing somebody that we've never seen do it at that stage with the like skill set away from it, he's got the best shot at managing those washables to be a top 5 to me. I mean, the strength is there, the skills, obviously, like we've seen him do insane just gymnastic stuff. So I don't think there's anything lacking there. And just traditionally the amount of events and the length of the events, right? That time domain of the games is long. Overwhelmingly so almost. And so, I mean, I don't think he's lacking skill wise, man. I think it's just managing the washables and then like who else shows up, right? Like, it's, which are things you can't control, but when he brings it on the table, yeah. And it's a crazy year. Everybody is fit. They're really fit. So,
like, I mean, okay, so you take your podium last year's like Justin, Brent, Pat. Okay. They're all coming back. And then,
right, like who's going anywhere?
Right, like who's going out? Because I see someone like Jeff Adler, who looked like a different human being at the Atlas Games.
Yeah, bro.
He sounded like one too in his interview.
And you never heard Jeff Adler talk.
I was like,
ever.
I love that.
Ever. Adler has never. I have never heard him talk positively about himself or his performance.
Yeah,
it's really a first timer, which is dangerous. And then, like, a BKG was 4th, Saxon Panchak 5th. Okay, well, who's going? Like, Guy Maheros was 7th. Okay, is he going to get worse? Like,
well, and I guess that's why I ask if he'll break the top 10 rather than the top 5, because the depth of the field this year is like nothing that we've ever seen.
Yeah,
and I think that was proven in semifinals. There's a reason why we had tight races for the final event at every single semifinal, because the depth of the field and the talent that we have now is better than we've ever had in the history of the sport.
The
top 10 are all good.
Yeah, splitting hairs now is what it is, man. It's crazy.
Okay, so then how does Roman Khrennikov at the games, how does he potentially shift up the podium by like sneaking into some of those top event maybe wins or first, second, or thirds?
Talk to his coach. I think it's all going to be how Roman is managed by his coaches and those around him. Like we said, it's not a fitness thing for Roman. I do not believe that whatsoever. I think he's a top 10 fitness lock. It's managing the games, the whole aspect of the games, the head games, the outside media, the attention, like if he starts winning and he has to do an interview,
Yeah.
and then all the interviews going to be like, what's the pressure like? What are your thoughts on it? So like, what was your game plan? It's like, I don't want to talk about that.
Yeah.
I'm tired of talking about that. And like, he's going to get recognized on the street. He's going to get recognized on site. Like,
oh, bro, I didn't even.
The games is going to be Roman's key to success, and it's going to come down to his coaches and his handlers on how they do that for him. It is not his job to do that. It's his job to go wreck shop on the competition floor. Everything else is on his training staff. That's it.
Yep. I can't disagree with that. And you know what I didn't even think about? And this is the difference in Carson and Madison to me, is the entire city is about the life. Like you can't, every restaurant has a CrossFit menu. So like people are, I walked around with Noah and Chandler, last year before, not the year before, obviously. But you can't, there's 10 steps between people coming up, and they're two of the nicest cats. They're not going to say no, but I didn't even think about them going out like to dinner, bro. That's going to be insane. And you got, like I said, it's everybody's first shot to even interact with the guy.
Right.
Man, text Nick. This would be
I gotta go.
Boss. Hey, boss. Be a long week for you, bud.
Better start preparing now. Get him a bodyguard, because really those variables make so much of a difference, especially if he's cramming all of these interviews, potentially missing meals, and we know how chaotic it can be going from event to event. But does him being at the games shift up the leaderboard?
I think so. He, look at comparables, right? Like we're talking about all the things to manage, and like the games being a war of attrition. It is like when Rich used to come, what was the big day? That last day. So Rich has handled all the stuff on the front end. Last day, I'm the healthiest, I feel the best probably, maybe, or maybe it's just a psycho, but some version of that to where on that last day, he felt fine. That recipe worked. And so now everybody's got a little taste of that. And that's what's scary about Roman is like, seeing the events he's done with the events they've programmed, like they match up with the games a lot. All the guys we mentioned, like Saxon and all those people, like you can pick some where they're not going to do that well, right? Like we know Pat's not a strong swimmer. We know XYZ, but we've seen this guy do all these things at a really high level. So, I honestly, like Chase said, the fitness is locked. The strength, locked. Great. And it doesn't matter the lift. That's what's crazy. Like if you saw the guy's blocks, absolute strength there. The explosive stuff, crazy. Body weight stuff, insane. Engine, good. And so it's going to be like a managing the show. Like, can you keep this candle from getting blown out the whole weekend? And what happens on Sunday and how it shakes. I think for sure it shakes up the leaderboard hard. And it doesn't matter what version everybody else shows up. If he's, like Chase said, I 100% agree with that. If he's managed well, and I think he will be, it's going to be fun to watch. It'll be a show. Finally.
Chase, do you echo that he shakes up the leaderboard?
Oh, I think him and Ricky are going to blow that thing up.
Oh, dude, I'm so pumped about that. That's a different show.
Those are your middlers are back. And not to discredit like their ability to be top 3 podium athletes, but like there's a lot of people missing at the games that we needed to shake up the leaderboard, especially at the top. We saw that last year with Pat trying to run away from Justin, and he could only get a spot on him. Now you have some middlers. You got the Romans, you got the Rickies.
That's gonna be so good.
You got the new blood Adlers in there, so we'll see. I think it's gonna be. Awesome. I can't wait.
That was my favorite thing about some of the semis is that, like you're talking about, the end of the day, like the last few event races for some events, right? Like Will Morad sneaking in, getting to see that. That's the most exciting thing to me. Like Rich, Matt, Tia being able to skate through the last event and there be no consequence, even if you like fall down 6 times and do the worm to the finish line. Cool. Like that's. I understand and I appreciate those things and that body of work. But to me, spectator wise and Chase's job in the booth wise, these racers are going to be nuts consistently. Like it could be a weekend long dogfight, not a, see what happens on Sunday thing. Like that'll be awesome. Like every point this year will be so much more valuable than years before. So it'll be cool to see people like not be able to take their foot off the gas the whole week.
Chase, what's your bottom line?
Bottom line, Roman's a top 10 talent, and I'm going to put all the onus on his success on his coaches and training staff. That's what I think.
Oh,
Heavy.
that is heavy. Dex, what's your bottom line?
I don't want to copy and paste. I don't want to command C this thing. But that's
Don't
the
plagiarize.
Just do what I did in
Well,
college and just use synonyms. Like I'm gonna change
well, like
that word.
the proof's in the pudding for him, man. I think he shows up, and you get hungry dog Roman that's finally like, out here tearing it down, or maybe the pressure of the moment's a little different for him. So either way, it's gonna be awesome to watch. And I think either like a worst case, he's top 10. I think best case he is top 5 pushing for the tall steps. And so, yeah, that's my bottom line. He's in there to shake it up. How well it goes is, like I said, how he's managed, and I hope it's well, because I'd love to see, like, maybe he stays over here. The whole rigmarole of getting in and out of the country is terrifying for him. So yeah, he'll be up there. It's just how high.
We're looking forward to a dogfight at the games. That's what I want to see.
Yes. No
Dex
more runaways.
Chase. No. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.